Hello, Richard. How are you tonight? You got your mute on there, I think. There you go. It looks like it might just be you and I here tonight. I don't know where everyone else is. It looks like just myself.
It's just getting to be six right now.
Yeah, I'll give them a few more minutes here. Hopefully, there we go. We got a couple more people maybe showing up here. All right, so we'll give it about 2 or 3 minutes and see if we get a couple more people showing up. Greetings to everyone who's shown up here. I'm going to give it just about a minute or two more, and then we'll get started. Alrighty. So good evening, everyone. I don't know if you can sort of see me here. I'm trying to do a lot of gymnastics with this kitchen and the camera and the different angles and everything. So I think I've seen a couple of you here before, maybe all of you actually. It's kind of a small group again tonight. My name is Bert Herald, so I'm a registered dietitian with Carilion Clinic, and this is going to be my last video of this year. I'll probably do some more next year. Do not have a schedule yet for that, but as soon as we figure that out, you guys will probably be getting an email. You should be on the mailing list if you register for this class. So tonight the topic is going to be sort of holiday cooking and surviving the holidays. So it's again the focus, as all of my videos are in this series, is to help people with weight loss, essentially kind of weight management, managing their weight. And so we'll kind of talk about that as far as how to get through the holidays and not let it get away from us. I know some of us feel like we're destined to gain 10 or 20 pounds from about this time. Really, it's kind of when it starts up until New Year's, and then New Year's comes and we're like, oh my God, we've got to do something about that. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share my computer here, and we'll go ahead and get started here. So let's see. All right. Okay. Holiday Survival Guide. And if anyone is not seeing it, if you're not seeing the Holiday Survival Guide PowerPoint on your screen, please chime in and let me know. But it should be sharing it now. So let's see if I can make this work. There we go. Okay. So we're going to do a little weight loss strategy review. I like to put a little bit of that in every talk. And then we'll go into what does constitute a healthy meal. It's easy to throw these words around. I mean, anything you see on the news or whatnot, your doctor, say have a healthy diet, healthy meal. What does that really mean? So I'm going to try to dive into that a little bit more detail tonight. And then tips and strategies to survive the holidays, which I think will be helpful to us to kind of think about. And then I'm going to do, last but not least, the famous meal demo that I do. It's not going to be anything as fancy as what you see there. I can guarantee you that this is just a simple little soup that you can make. The soup and information as usual, the recipe, and all the assorted information is going to be sent to you after this class is done. You'll get an email with the links with some attachments and things, file attachments that'll give you all the details. So, but it can actually be found out on the web. This was a recipe that came off of choosemyplate.gov. They've got a lot of good things over there. So, what is obesity? I'm sure a lot of you may be familiar with this already. So just a quick review here. I think a lot of you may have seen some of these slides before, so I won't belabor it too much, but it was declared a disease state by American Medical Association back in 2013, along with the Obesity Society, American Association of Clinical Endocrinology. So it's kind of, jointly agreed upon, this is a disease state. It is not just some bad choices. It's actually a disease in and of itself. Obesity can be defined as either body mass index greater than 30, increased weight at a sufficient level to cause reduced health and longevity. Those are kind of the two sort of main ways. Really, I think BMI is the way, at least currently, we're using to kind of delineate what's obese and what isn't. This disease can be managed and not cured. And so right now, there's definitely no cure for this disease. You may have heard of weight loss medications, and they can be helpful, there's no doubt. There are definitely some legitimate medications out there, but they will not cure obesity. And even with the best medications, you still need to adopt a healthy lifestyle. You still need to eat healthy. You generally still need to do some sort of tracking and measuring and weighing and all these things to make it successful. One of the things I'll pass along on this slide that might be a little bit newer to some people, it's kind of newer to me. There is a movement afoot you may have heard of or you may encounter at some point called Health at Every Size. There are some that feel that being at a higher weight level is okay, and that we shouldn't be trying to lose weight from a high weight level, and that the term obesity itself possibly could be offensive. Right now, that is not the majority, I guess, feeling out there among practitioners, but there is sort of this minority view that's out there. Currently, the thought is that, if you are obese, you're definitely at much higher risk for many different diseases. And, by losing weight, if you are obese, that can really help you as far as longevity and reversing risk factors and reversing current diseases. I mean, diabetes and high blood pressure are two very common, syndromes that we can really reverse in a lot of cases. So, but just to throw that out there, that is something you may hear more about. You may hear it on the news. You may hear some practitioners mentioning it. There's some dietitians that don't even believe in doing weight loss counseling now. So again, not the majority, but it is out there. And so I think one of the things that's come out of that movement, which I think we all agree on, is, we don't want to stigmatize people for being overweight. We don't want to use language that is offensive to people who are, at a higher weight. And that's something I think none of us want to do. The term obesity, I don't think really is, at this time is seen as offensive. But if it becomes, something that people feel is offensive, of course, we will change the terminology. Right now, it's kind of a dry, boring sort of clinical term, I would say, for most people. So anyway, just to throw that out there before we sort of move on with the rest of it here. As far as what obesity involves, so fat cells, fill up if we eat more, if we take in more calories than what we burn, our fat cells will fill up, and then, they will release these, what they call adipokines, which are signaling proteins These kind of circulate throughout the body. They work on the muscle, the liver. They can alter your metabolism. They've been linked to insulin resistance. So this gets to the idea that fat cells are not just storage for energy, which is kind of the old thought. Fat cells are actually an endocrine organ, and they're involved with all these signaling processes. And you can see there's all these different proteins, and the conditions are sort of these pale blue words on the outskirts, cancer, arthritis, inflammation, type 2 diabetes, hypertension. So obesity is definitely something, having this excess fat is definitely something that we need to, try to work on and try to help people with, because, we don't want to have these conditions out there for them. Weight loss strategies. So again, MyPlate. Any of you guys have seen any of my other videos or had me as a patient, certainly have seen this symbol. That's sort of our baseline healthy diet: fruits and vegetables on every plate, whole grains, protein, dairy. Tracking and weighing, very, very important strategies, really for anyone who's very serious about weight loss and has, significant amount of weight to lose, especially. Sometimes you can shave off 5 or 10 pounds by, doing things like, eliminating sugary drinks, maybe exercising a little bit more. But for people that need to lose 30, 40, 60, 100 pounds or more, you really sort of need to think about doing some tracking of your diet, setting a calorie goal, kind of having a regular regimen, weighing yourself, and so on. Again, exercise, as I kind of alluded to, very important. And whether it's a program, quote unquote, formal program, or whether it's just a lifestyle, I prefer to think of these things as lifestyle choices. I mean, you want to adopt or adapt to a lifestyle that is active. And so if you think of it as a program, that kind of gives you this idea of, well, I got to do this for a while till I lose weight. When it's over, it's just a program I'm doing right now. It's like you have to think of it in terms of, what am I going to do the rest of my life? Am I going to walk? Am I going to bike ride, swim? Am I going to do all these things? Yoga, Tai Chi, whatever it might be. I mean, there's so many options out there for exercise, but you got to find things that work for you, that you like doing as part of your lifestyle, rather than just, a fixed point in time, some short span for a program. Support, again, is very important for most of us. And I will say a lot of people I work with, they like to kind of do this more or less on their own, sometimes with their spouse, sometimes with a friend, family member. But sometimes people do want to be on their own, but I would say most people probably are, they benefit from some type of support somewhere. And, it helps us get through all this and keeps us motivated. So I wanted to kind of get into a little bit more about what a healthy meal is. One of my future talks, I think I want to do maybe next year, we'll get into more details about the individual nutrients, the macro and the micronutrients. I think that would be an interesting talk to kind of get into without getting too, cerebral maybe, but I think it's important for us to kind of understand nutrition and diet. I mean, that's one of the reasons I got into this field and try to explain some of these things. So, first and foremost, I mean, we have this kind of MyPlate, very, very simple diagram. I mean, we have fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. And you can see the different components there on the right. So the kind of cornerstone for a healthy meal is you really want to try to incorporate a little bit of each of these aspects into virtually every meal. Does that mean we all do that all the time? No, of course not. Dietitians don't either. But you really try to make most of your meals, close to that, or at least incorporate all these parts throughout the day in some form or fashion. And along with that, there's other parts of it. So we want to keep the sugar down. We know that high sugar levels, they can result in, some higher triglycerides in our blood, and they're higher, just they don't have any nutrients associated with them. They're just energy. Sugar is just energy. And so when you eat a lot of sugar, one of the things happens is you're kind of crowding out where other foods might go. You're using up all of your calorie needs on something that doesn't provide anything but energy. So you're not getting vitamins, you're not getting minerals, you're not getting fiber. So we want to have a diet that keeps that particular element pretty low, maybe even zero. I mean, you don't really need added sugar. Added sugar is things you put in, manufacturing puts it in, like, sugar and ice cream, or sugar in a candy bar. That's added sugar. That's not sugar in a banana or sugar in an apple. That's not what we're talking about. We want it low in saturated fat. Well, saturated fat is something that we know from many years, decades, I guess, of studies on the heart, that saturated fat is kind of a bad actor with cholesterol in our blood. These, like LDL and total cholesterol, and we tend to get, atherosclerosis. We get plaques in our arteries from saturated fat, high saturated fat diets. Saturated fat primarily comes from animal products. Now, it doesn't mean we all have to become vegans or vegetarians today because of that, but what it means is we have to be more careful about how much of that we take in and what kind of meats we choose. So, chicken and turkey and fish are very low in saturated fat, as long as you don't eat the skin of the chicken. This is skinless poultry and fish. Generally, we're okay with those. Vegetable proteins are free of saturated fat. Not everything in the vegetable world is free of saturated fat. Prime example is coconut. Coconut oil is very high in saturated fat. So just by being, like I said earlier, vegetarian, you're not really going to avoid saturated fat completely. You still have to kind of make better choices. But by and large, the protein foods in the plant world, as it were, are going to be, free of saturated fat. Beef and pork typically are higher. So you think of your sausages and, things of that nature, fatty hamburger. Those are things we can have in moderation, but you don't want to have a lot of them. Maybe once or twice a week, you might have a serving, but really you don't want to do much more than that. And you can choose better choices there too. You can have lower fat beef, lower fat cuts of pork products. And a third thing here, or fourth, how many things are there? 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth thing is low in sodium. Sodium, we know, is linked to high blood pressure. And one of my talks I did was really kind of focused on sodium as a topic. So we know that sodium tends to kind of, result in higher blood pressure in a lot of people. Some people are more sensitive to it than others. So what that means is it doesn't mean you can't have any salt in your diet. That doesn't mean go out and just strip everything of salt everywhere. You do need some salt, but the problem is in our society is all these packaged foods and fast foods we get from these chains and a lot of restaurants, they really use a lot of salt. They use much more salt than what you really need just for kind of the basic flavoring of something. If you make your foods at home, you can control the salt, you can keep it reasonable, still provide flavor, but not go overboard and push the sodium too high. And that's what one of the focuses is of these talks and these cooking demos, is to show you you can make a nice meal that meets all these goals, and it's edible and it tastes good. So those are all important parts. We talk about this MyPlate symbol, the whole grains as another piece. Grains have been taking a beating, it seems like, for the last 5 or 6 years. It seems like it's really accelerated in the last year or two. Anything that has a carbohydrate in it, and people associate that with breads. Well, whole grains, we know what the fiber in the whole grains is very, very healthy. It's part of a kind of what they call a Mediterranean diet, for instance, that's is very healthy and associated with good health outcomes for people. There's evidence that it's connected or correlated to lower risks of cancers. Whole grains can be, you want to think of them kind of a little bit differently though than the refined grains. So like the white fluffy breads and a lot of these crackers and things that are really, really refined and kind of pale. They don't have much nutrients in them. They're almost like sugar, not quite. And I think maybe that's part of why, grains and carbohydrates get a bad rap. People kind of lump them in with sugar. And, whole grains are really a different kind of creature. I always tell people, if you have a slice of bread in the morning, if you have try 100% whole wheat bread one morning, and another morning try a slice of, Wonder Bread or really light white fluffy bread, and you can tell the difference. I mean, an hour later after having the whole grain toast, you still feel this sense of, I had something to eat. It's still in there digesting. It's not just flying through your system and converting to sugar like the fluffy bread does. And that's really one of the big differences. I mean, you have that fiber in there, it slows digestion, it slows the absorption of the sugars. It's just way, way better for you. And it doesn't even get into all the vitamins. We could break down the vitamins. I mean, whole grains are known to have a lot more B vitamins. So there you go. So there's that part of the plate. Lean proteins, I think I already sort of mentioned that earlier, so I don't want to belabor it too much. I will just add fish and seafood, if you like those, are very, very healthy types of proteins. They're not necessarily lean, actually. They're, fatty fish like salmon, but the fat is very healthy. It's the omega-3 fat. You may have heard of fatty acid, which is linked to good heart health. So we want the lean proteins and low-fat dairy. Low-fat dairy would be like skim milk, 1% milk, or kind of low-fat yogurt. Those are the two main ways. There are cheeses out there that are lower in fat. Honestly, I mean, I have to be honest with people about some of these foods. I personally don't think really low-fat cheese is generally that flavorful. I don't know. I would probably rather have limited servings of good cheese versus large servings of extremely low fat cheese. That's just my preference. But I feel like the 1% milk and even skim milk and some of the yogurts are pretty good. I mean, but it's all sort of personal preference. A lot of we have different sense of taste and everything. But the key with the dairy is we just want to have the vitamin D and the calcium are really very well fortified in dairy products, and we need that for our bone health. And so we want to always try to get like 2 to 3 servings a day of some type of dairy. That's why these plate symbols, we always add that little dairy thing. So this is what it's all about. And, all the meals that you'll see me do now or in the future, you'll probably see other dietitians do if you watch other, videos or go online. Really, it's kind of roughly going to follow this type of MyPlate concept as far as a meal is concerned. Maybe not for an individual entree, but if you're looking at a meal, like a dinner meal, lunch meal, you'll see most of these categories met in some form or fashion. So let's see, I went backwards. Sorry about that. So this is just another view of the MyPlate symbol. Again, we got the vegetables and the fruits. And roughly, they split it up so half your plate is vegetables and fruits. I tell people, if you want to make half your plate all vegetables, make half your plate all fruits, or do half and half, that's all fine. What you want to shoot for is kind of like 1 to 2 servings of fruits and or vegetables on every plate. And a serving size is about the size of a baseball, size of your fist. That is what the guidelines say as far as helping you to meet your fiber goals and helping you to meet a lot of your nutrient goals. If you work out all the numbers and you were to pull out a massive spreadsheet and calculate everything, you can determine that if you follow these guidelines, you're really going to pretty much meet all the major nutrient needs, as defined by, the USDA and FDA and the research over the years on this and the dietary guidelines for Americans. The dietary reference intake index and everything. All this various information on, how much of what nutrient we need is more or less going to be met very closely anyway by eating in this style. And the other thing is to also eat in such a way that you vary up what you eat every day. So the course of the week, you don't want to eat the same, pile of broccoli and the same banana every single day. You want to mix it up. So certain days out of the week, have some leafy greens, have some salad. Maybe some other days of the week, have some carrots. Maybe another day of the week, have some broccoli. You want different colors. You want different types of vegetables in the mix throughout the week. And that will even further refine how healthy your diet is. And if you want to go the next level with this, you want to have a variety. You want to have fruit, different fruits, different vegetables, different whole grains, and it's better that way anyway. You get bored if you eat the same thing over and over. So it's best to kind of keep things mixed up. So, and this is another view. This is what I hand out to my patients. I usually include this after every talk as one of the handouts that get mailed out to people or emailed to people. I think it's just a nice little summary. And you can find these handouts and a lot more information like this on the website, the MyPlate or choosemyplate.gov. So I won't belabor that. So for those who maybe want to, kind of go the next mile, like I said, this would be the next mile. So these are the nutrients really that are underneath this pattern. If you kind of look under the hood of MyPlate, and if you eat fruits and vegetables every day and whole grains and dairy, what all are you getting, and how much should you do per week? And this is what I was just alluding to. You've got dark green vegetables. You should do about 1.5 cups per week. So that's about 1.5 servings. You should look to do red and orange vegetables, about 5.5 servings a week. Legumes, beans, and peas, look for that to do that 1.5 servings a week. Starchy vegetables, so think of like corn or peas, those kind, 5 cups per week. And then sort of other, so your non-starchy vegetables, just various other vegetables, about 4 per week. And we got grains here, whole grains, refined grains. We really don't want, you of course we can have some refined grains, they're not toxic or anything, but we don't really need them in our diet that much. If you can do them all whole grains, that's what I'd recommend, or most of them. Proteins, again, seafood. We want about 15 ounces. So that's a pretty good amount, and again, this is Mediterranean diet. So Mediterranean is a little bit heavier on seafood than, for instance, the handouts or diagram I just showed you before that's based on the dietary guidelines for Americans. Mediterranean diet is very close to it, but it's a little bit more heavy on seafood, and we think that's actually a good thing. Again, heart disease risk seems to be much lower for people on the Mediterranean diet. So that's like 5 servings a week or so of seafood, which is a lot for a lot of people. Dietary guidelines say, try to do maybe 2 or 3 servings a week. But obviously, up to 5 is good as well. Nuts and seeds, have some servings of those every week. Poultry and eggs and meats, and most of those meats on the Mediterranean are going to be like chicken and turkey, 26 ounces a week. So that's even a further breakdown. And if you want to take that dive down even more, you have the diagram or the table on the right. And for every calorie level, and I know this is going to be hard to read, especially if you're looking on a smartphone here. I just show this just to give you an idea of sort of what's involved. There's food scientists out there that have researched this and study all these nutrients, and they've figured out, there's programs or software you can use to crank out all these numbers. You can see, you got calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, zinc, copper, magnesium, selenium, all these different vitamins. We got fiber up here. And, we have the carbohydrates, protein, different types of fat. So you've got different types of, we got the linoleic and linolenic fats in here as well. And you got saturated fat. So it's all broken down. There's for each of these nutrients, there's a whole host of different biological functions that they support. And again, I'm not going to go into all this tonight, but I think a future talk might be kind of interesting to touch on some of that. But they're all important. And rather than focus on any one of them and just say, well, I need more magnesium, so I'm going to take magnesium, supplement pill, or, I need some more zinc in my diet because I heard that's good for the immune system. I'm going to go out and buy some zinc supplements. Rather than think of it that way, we think the best way is to get it through the diet. The best way is really to eat like Mediterranean style, or follow the dietary guidelines and try to get it through a balanced, healthy meal. Try to get it through healthy patterns, lots of fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, beans, healthy lean proteins, whole grains. That's what's going to get you all these nutrients. And it's not out of a pill. And it's going to be far safer, frankly, than most of these supplement pills are. So that's what we really try to stress in people. It's not to say that some people don't need supplements. Some people do. Some people have low iron, for instance. They really need an iron supplement. Some people have trouble with calcium. Sometimes they are needed. And usually your doctor will definitely prescribe something like that if it's really needed for some condition you may have or deficiency. But for most of us, the vast majority of us, we want to get all that huge laundry list of goodies. We want to get that through our food. So let's see if I can get back to here. Okay. So the next part of our talk here is, we'll see, we're out of time, so about 6:30. So I want to get started on the cooking here, certainly before 7 here, or around 7. I think we got a good amount of time here. So holiday survival. So this is a little handout, a little thing that comes again off the Choose My Plate. I thought I had some good little tips on there. One of the things we can do is kind of, try to choose better options as far as our sweets. Fruits are always a good sweet, healthy sweet with plenty of fiber and antioxidants and other things and vitamins. Water versus soda. So baking healthier, they show applesauce there. Applesauce a lot of times is used as a replacement of different things. I've seen it actually used as replacing for eggs, but you can also apparently use it replacing butter or oil in your cooking. So spices instead of sugar and salt, just as we just talked about earlier, sugar and salt are things we generally want to keep pretty minimal. The thing about spices is they, generally, pure spices are free of salt usually. Pure spices are. Some of these mixes, you have to be careful. They can add sugar, salt, or other things to them, but if it's a pure spice, you shouldn't have to worry about that. And that's how we recommend people to actually, flavor their food. If they don't want bland food and they're, on a cardiac diet, use things like Mrs. Dash and a lot of these seasonings that are salt-free, and you can really have, plenty of flavor with very little or no salt in some cases. Brighten the meal. Again, half your plate of fruits and vegetables. Skim milk versus a heavy cream. That's pretty self-explanatory. We sort of mentioned that already. Go easy on the gravy. I sort of see gravy the way I do with dressing for salads. And as an old Weight Watchers trick, I guess. I think it came from them. It may have predated Weight Watchers, I don't know. But you just sort of dip the fork in the dressing and then spear the lettuce, and that gives you very little dressing. But you get the flavor of it. Sort of the same thing with things like gravy. Just a little bit goes a very long way. You don't want to soak or drench things in these things, just for flavor. And again, whole wheat versus white flour products, wherever you can, find those changes. Definitely that brings a lot more health to the table than the white flours and the kind of fluffy light rolls and things. And again, it's all about moderation. So one of the things to keep in mind with all this is, if you have a favorite dish from grandma or whatever, and you look forward to it every year, I don't think we should torture ourselves either and just not eat anything like that. Honestly, I eat some things that are extremely delicious. Certain times of the year, I think we all do that. But what we try to do is go for, as much health as we can with all these things. And, just try to make the majority of your choices good. If you have a few indulgences once in a while, that's part of just being a human being, I think. There's some people out there that say, well, you have to think of food as fuel. Food is fuel. Food is fuel. It's like, well, I think that is naive, maybe. I don't know. It's not real. And the way that you can have success with keeping weight off, massive weight losses, you've been obese and you've kept off 100 pounds, you don't do that by living in some sort of bizarre prison where, everything has to be absolutely perfect all the time. Nobody can do that. Nobody does that. But what they do is, maybe 5 days out of the 7, 6 days out of the 7, really they're not eating a lot of sugar. They're not eating gravy on everything. Most of their meals are very healthy. But every so often they will have one of these things because, it's a holiday, it's a birthday or whatever, and, that's okay. So it's all about just being sensible, nothing extreme, and just mostly making those good choices. Majority of the time, try to stay focused on that. That's what my message is, at least, working with patients and even for myself, is try to be sensible about all this. So here are some general tips. So this is something that I have observed a lot. It's actually within my own family, but I've seen it elsewhere. I've seen people talk about it. It's not really the best idea to save up and just literally starve yourself for the big turkey meal or whatever it is. You know, I think it probably goes without saying, when you do that, you're going to really overeat, and you're going to be inclined to eat way more things that you're not supposed to eat. And again, if it's literally one day out of the whole year and you really want to do that, I guess go for it. But if, a lot of times with these holidays, they extend over many days. We have many leftovers and things. You don't want to make this a habit where you're saving up for a gigantic explosion of food. It's very, very hard to control what we're doing when we do that. So I would just say be realistic, be moderate with what you do, and just have normal portions. Be sparing or avoid alcoholic beverages. So when we're trying to lose weight, especially, we have to keep in mind that these alcoholic beverages, in addition to not necessarily being that healthy for us, they're loaded with calories. So just an example, eggnog is real big this time of year. I'd say from now going forward, and we move into Thanksgiving and Christmas, a cup of eggnog is 200 calories. So, keep that in mind. If you're tracking, if you're using FitnessPal during the holidays, realize that that's going to set you back quite a bit. So just be sparing on that. Club soda mixed with rum, gin, and vodka, 100 calories. Light lagers or champagne are slightly better options if you want to do that. And again, with alcoholic beverages, the guidelines say for men no more than 2 drinks a day. So that would be like 2 beers or 2 glasses of wine. With women, it's 1. It's basically half. So we're really not supposed to take in too much anyway. And of course, I know some people will, but in terms of just our health, if nothing else, regardless of calorie issue, just keep that in mind. I mean, we can enjoy a little bit with our meals, but we don't want to get too crazy, especially on a regular basis for sure. Be appetizer smart. So if you're at a situation where there are a lot of choices, try to go for fruits and vegetables and nuts and olives more so than, we all see the little sausages and, pigs in the blanket or whatever these things are, various snack chips, cheeses, dips, desserts. These are all calorie dense. So a little bit of those guys has a lot of calories. Why is that? Well, cheese is high in fat. Pound for pound, fat has more than twice the amount of calories of carbohydrate or protein. So when you think of sausages, a lot of sausages is fat. I would say maybe mostly fat. It's very high fat food. Dips, a lot of that is fat. It's kind of cheesy or, kind of, creamy. And we sort of, it seems like there's such a focus on carbohydrates. We sort of forget that fat is very, it's the highest density of calories there is. So it's very easy to go way over on your needs with fatty foods. So be sparing of those. Snack foods, I would say, tend to be more, what we call carbs, I guess, potato chips. But again, potato chips, there's a lot of fat in them. Crackers, though, maybe certain breads, mostly carbohydrate based. All those things, just again, go more for the fruits and the vegetables. They are nutrient dense instead of calorie dense. So very, very few calories in most of those items, but lots of nutrients. They'll fill you up a little bit, kind of take away some of that hunger that we feel when we're looking at all these amazing foods out on the table. We want to eat like crazy. Fruits and vegetables will really help knock that back. Nuts are healthy in terms of a very healthy type of fat. However, nuts can be highly salty, and that's obviously not good for our blood pressure. So just be a little wary of those. But in general, nuts and seeds are considered to be very healthy foods. Olives, usually we don't eat too many olives for that to be an issue, but they could be high in sodium as well. But again, an olive or two is not bad. Olive oil is, of course, very healthy. The oil is at least. Manage your leftovers. So as a host, make sure you freeze them or give them away. If you have too many or whatever, so you're not feeling as though, oh my God, I've got this really high calorie item that I'm going to have to work on. It's just me and my wife, or maybe it's just you yourself. You threw a party, you got all this food, and you feel compelled. You got to eat this for, I don't know, a week or so or whatever. Freeze it, put it away for a while, come back to it maybe in a few weeks or months or whatever. Enjoy it over a longer time span, kind of spread that out so you don't feel like you're just hammered with these really high calorie items all the time. Do not take an exercise holiday. So exercise a lot of times seems to somehow evaporate during these times, which is kind of weird. Now, I think in recent years, in my estimation, it's gotten better. There's been a lot more publicity, I think, maybe in the last 10 years, 15 years, of things like these turkey trots or Santa shuffles, like these races, these walks, these community exercise events to try to get people out exercising during these holidays. Of course, this year is a little bit different. We have social distancing and things, but there are still virtual versions of these things going on. There are virtual half marathons that are being run. You can still go out there and do these things, even if you're not in a big group. There's still people competing. So it's very much still going on. And I think it's a great thing. I think, these races and these events are really, really good. It encourages a lot of people to stay fit. And it's a wonderful thing. And I think, we just all need to kind of focus on getting out there and doing things and not feeling like we're just glued to the couch just because it's, a holiday. Mall and neighborhood walks, even yard work. And there's so many things we can do just to get out there and move around. So definitely keep that in mind. Maybe plan for something. Office cookie exchange. You guys may find it slightly amusing, but the Carilion, the dietitian group, often has a cookie exchange for Christmas. So maybe skip the cookie exchange. Come up with some new traditions of your own. Maybe instead of cookies, have some sort of healthy treat. I don't know, some vegetable tray or something. Certainly we can do different things. We don't always have to feel compelled, like, well, I got to bring in some donuts, or got to bring in the super high fat, German chocolate cake that I make every year, or whatever it is. We can rethink these things. We can come up with things that are healthy. And sometimes I feel like there's peer pressure. I've seen certain offices where it seems like everyone has to bring in the most calorie dense, unhealthy, luxurious thing that they can possibly dream up. I don't know where they get these recipes. Maybe their family tradition, been handed down for generations. I don't know, but when you could fuel an army with some of these desserts that I see people bring into offices, it's just outrageous. This little slice of cake would be enough calories to keep you going for 2 days, and we're all just scarfing it down. Like, oh my God, I'm so tired now. I don't want to do my work. It's like, I don't know why we do this to ourselves, but I've seen it for years. It seems almost to me, I've worked in 2 different industries. I've been in engineering and now I'm in healthcare. And it's bizarre, but I feel like healthcare almost has more unhealthy food habits, the members of healthcare, than maybe some other fields do, tech. It's weird. So let's just all do our part, try to, maybe do some different things. You might get some kind of, snide remark from your coworkers or whatnot. I don't know, but it's really for everyone. It's for all of our benefits. Try to at least make things slightly more healthy. Not just go crazy. So, final thoughts on some of this. So, if we're doing, a lot of us, my patients, we're tracking, we're using these trackers, FitnessPal, Fitbit, Lose It, Noom. I don't know. There's so many other ones out there now. Do we want to track through the holidays or not? That's kind of like this age-old question, I feel like, for those who are suffering with this obesity situation. And I don't know if there's a perfect answer, to be honest. Oops. But some thoughts that I have about it, I think, as I think I said earlier, sometimes it's okay to have an off day. I mean, if it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, your birthday, anniversary, there's some days where whipping out the tracker just seems a little bit obsessive or maybe not completely necessary. Now, what I will say to that, I think it might be my next bullet point here. So, yeah, so The problem is if you just go completely crazy and really plow and just go way, way over on your calories, and you've been doing really well, you've been losing weight, you've been tracking, keeping really good to these goals, you go really crazy. Sometimes it's hard to get back on that wagon again. You might revert to habits that were frankly sort of dysfunctional or kind of really unhealthy. Like if your thing is to plow through a whole bag of potato chips and that makes you feel good, I mean, sometimes you go back to that and it's almost like it's hard to go back to eating healthy again. So that gets into kind of a psychology thing. Maybe even some counseling needed to kind of get to the root of some of that. But you have to figure out for yourself what makes sense. If you think it's better for you to kind of just more or less stay on target and not go crazy, I've certainly, in my past, I have tracked very carefully through holiday meals, been very, very strict because I just didn't want to give up ground. I didn't want to see, a pound or two or three come back on after a lot of hard work. So, probably I'm more along those lines. But usually, like I say, one day if it's slightly off, you maybe go slightly over, probably not bad. Going completely over, going crazy and berserk, and eating until you feel like you're going to explode, that might not be a good idea. Might do more harm than good in the long run. Again, tracking to the holiday, it does give you a sense of control, can reduce guilt. But, there's extremes here on both sides. I mean, if you're sitting there on the app all through the meal and you can't even talk to your family because you're trying to figure out how many grams of protein you had or something, I mean, let's just be reasonable about it. It can be helpful to get through it, but you don't want it to just completely destroy happiness for that particular day. So I hope that makes sense. I think that the rule really with this whole talk is really, moderation, frankly, is what it's all about. And I think sometimes holidays can throw us out of moderation and get us to do things that we shouldn't really be doing. And then those might cause longer term problems and, kind of be hard to get back out of it again. So just try to be moderate, get out there and exercise, try to make better choices at those tables, make substitutions where you can. And, you can get through it, certainly. A lot of people, they lose weight through the holidays. It's not a given that everyone's going to gain weight. Many people continue to lose. I've got patients that are just like unstoppable trains, they just keep going and going and going. And it's amazing, I mean, but you can definitely do it. So don't feel that it's impossible by any means. So that brings us to tonight's healthy meal. See where we're at on time. So it's about 6:45. I think that's about a good time here. Now, this is a soup that I pulled off of ChooseMyPlate.gov. And this is a very easy, straightforward soup. And the idea was that, after your turkey dinner is done, a lot of times we have, for the host especially, you have a lot of leftover turkey, pieces of turkey and things that you can use in a soup. Excuse me. So this is a very simple, very healthy, easy soup that you can make. And, we can look at kind of what goes into it here. I mean, so these are the stats on it. So for a serving of this soup, it's about, 27 grams of protein. So it's very high protein, for sure, very low calories, less than 300. 0 grams added sugar, 2 grams of fat, 28 grams of carbohydrates, 285 milligrams sodium, very low sodium. Anything that's under 300 milligrams sodium per serving is considered good. It's pretty low. We got some iron, some vitamins, potassium. The servings, I think, this doesn't really say, unfortunately, this particular page here doesn't say, I think it's like 4 servings or so, maybe 6. I'd have to go back and look. The materials that you get sent should tell you how many servings this makes. I regret now I didn't put the servings on this, but it should be on there. Oh, here we go, serving 6. It's right there. So it's about 6 servings. So, they might serve a family for a couple meals. Obviously, if it's just you and your spouse, you might have 3 meals out of this. I'd probably pair it with some maybe whole grain bread or maybe some fruit as well to kind of round it out and give you a few more calories. 300 is pretty lean for most people. So, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and start working on this. This is the ingredients that go into it and the directions. So I'll be going through these directions. I've got a little handout here. I'm going to be making it here at the stove. I'm going to just rotate the camera and start chopping and doing some things. Now, most of this stuff I've already pre-chopped, pre-diced. Actually, my wife was extremely nice to me today and did a lot of the chopping before I even got home. So that was amazing. I'm going to do a little bit of chopping myself with the potatoes, but most of the stuff is already pre-done for you, so it'll go a little faster. I don't know that the soup will be completely done before the end of the talk. It's 30 minutes. It might be, depending on how much Q&A we do, and if I can stop talking and start cooking more here. But that's basically it. Just a little bit of olive oil. We'll do some heating of the celery and some sauteing, and kind of saute the flour, curry powder, cinnamon for a couple, 3 minutes. We add in some broth, and then we bring that to simmer. Carrots, potatoes, spinach, turkey, it all gets put in there. Bring that to a boil. Then it just simmers for 30 minutes. And then when you're done, you can serve it with a spoonful of cranberry sauce. So, without further ado, I'll take questions as I'm cooking here in a few minutes, but let me go ahead and get started first. Let me go ahead and change this back to the other screen here. Alrighty, so hopefully we're back to that. I'm going to push this laptop out of the way. I'll bring my cutting board up here, and we are going to try to move this camera down so you can actually witness the amazing chopping of potatoes here. So I have here some red potatoes, and I don't know how well this is going to come out. It's always kind of tough to adjust this camera perfectly here. See my laptop in the background there. All righty. So these are red potatoes. So as you can see, let's see, red. So these have little, divots in them and stuff. Normally with red potatoes, I don't peel them. There's a lot of potassium in the skin, which is very healthy for you. It's a good heart health mineral. And so with red potatoes, I don't mind the skin that much. It's not that bad for me. So I'll leave them in there. A lot of these recipes, you'll leave them in. So in terms of chopping, I've got my little, chef's knife here. You want to find kind of a flat surface on the potatoes, best you can, so it doesn't roll too much. Kind of curl the knuckles in like this so that it'll hit the side of the blade and you won't chop off your finger. I'm going to make a cut, and then I have a flat. So now I got some flats to work with. And then I don't think there's any rocket science to cutting potatoes, but I can just show you what I do. I just want to make them so they're good bite-sized pieces. So I'll just kind of chop like that. And then I usually will kind of pile them up in some form and, slice them in a different direction, kind of go down like that, and maybe make another cut like that. And whatever your bite size is, I got a pretty big mouth, so I like big chunks of potatoes. So the other thing to keep in mind is, if they're too big or too thick, they'll take a little bit longer to cook. So you don't want something, outrageous that takes hours to cook, unless you got maybe a pressure cooker or something. Potatoes usually, 30 minutes is usually pretty good. If you got a good little simmer, kind of a subtle boil going on there, you can usually cook them about 30 minutes. Oops, I just launched a piece of potato here. Now, one thing I did not show you before I launched into this was washing of the hands or washing of the cutting board. Those are all things you're going to want to do before you start. I, of course, pre-washed everything before I started tonight's video, but for the sake of completeness, I should have probably showed you guys me washing my hands again. But that's an important part of food safety, is to always have clean hands and have a clean surface area before you start, clean knife, disinfect if you need to as well. So I got this little recipe back here. So one of the first things we actually do with this recipe is says heat the olive oil and butter in a large pot. I'm not going to use butter. I'm just going to use olive oil. I don't really think I need to have butter for this. Of course, butter would taste better. But a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to go ahead and get that started while I'm proceeding to cut the rest of this potato. Go ahead and get this back here behind you, and I'll turn the camera here in a minute. You can see it, but I like to try to do multiple things at once when I'm cooking. I don't like to just do one thing and then wait and do another thing if I can kind of do things at the same time. So I'm going to do that. And I got a little stove back here. I'm going to go ahead and get that on, and we'll go ahead and set it to about mid-range here. And so what it wants to do is cook the onion and the celery for about 7 minutes. So what I've got here back behind me is pre-chopped onion and pre-chopped celery. So I have these little containers. So there's the onion and the celery. And actually the celery, for something like this, my wife and I have sort of learned, if it's just a little bit of celery and carrot or whatever, they have these packs, kind of like snack packs of celery and carrot that you can just get a little bit. You don't have to buy a bunch of 6 or 8 celery stalks. You can just get basically 3 celery stalks in a little plastic cup and then chop it up and you're good to go. So for something like this, you might look at doing something like that. So I'll go ahead and put this celery into the pot, get that started, and then put the onion in the pot. And the onion I use, it's totally up to you, I guess, which onion you use. I like using the sweet onions, kind of like maybe the Vidalias. I like sweet onion because it's just not as strong and doesn't cause my eyes to tear up, which I'm not a big fan of that, really. Sweet onion really doesn't seem to do that, at least not to me. Of course, if you work under a hood, if you have a hood in your kitchen that actually exhausts to the outside world, which these days seems to be hard to find for some reason. But if you can get that, or maybe get your house retrofitted to have that, that can help and pull all those odors outside so you're not getting asphyxiated with onion odors. So just kind of chop these guys. I don't know if you can pick up on the sizzling in the background. It depends on how good this camera is, I guess. I got some olive oil in the background. That's simmering a little bit back there. Olive oil is not necessarily the best for high temperature frying. If you're doing deep frying of something, which of course when you're losing weight, doing weight loss, don't really advocate doing a lot of frying, but olive oil is okay if you keep the temperature down, but it has a lower smoke point, they call it. So this still has a little spot on it. Get that out there. So if you use high temp on the olive oil, it'll actually burn, and definitely is not a good flavor at that point. I guess it could also cause a fire, frankly. But canola oil is a good one to use for really high temp stuff. For just sauteing, you keep the temperature low, it's fine. I use it all the time, the olive oil. So I'm just kind of mixing that around the background here. And just keep on chopping. Now, I'm not a very fast chopper, as you probably can tell. I am not a chef. I try to cook in a way that supports health and helps me to keep my weight in check. And I am not really into really fancy meals that much. That's just my thing. Now, some people love cooking, and that's great. But I'm more cooking to live, I guess, for myself. I'm not I do a lot of fancy cooking. And figure if I can avoid eating out of a box or out of a can, and I can actually make some meals that are healthy, that's what I'm after. Whether it's going to win a contest, on the British baking show, probably not, but I will be healthy. That's the bottom line. So almost done here with this. And just keep on chopping it here. Just about done with that. I had a couple pieces get away from me there on the floor, but we got most of them corralled here. Alrighty, so pretty big chunks here. Some of them are smaller. If you want to have finer, you can take this knife. You can go like this and just sort of rotate the knife and go chop, 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 chop. I'm not going to do that. I don't really want really tiny pieces like that. I kind of like rougher, bigger pieces of potato. So that works for me. So that is pretty much the only thing that was not yet chopped. So I can move the camera now, hopefully, to look at the action over here. And if I do this right, you'll be able to actually look deep into the pot of goodness here. And if I don't do it right, the camera may fall into the pot, but that'll be exciting as well. Let's see here. All right, well, hopefully you can sort of see what's going on. So this is onion and celery. So it's kind of cooking a little bit rapid, so I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. This is what they call an induction cooking stove top. If you're not familiar with induction, it's kind of a newer technology surface. I thought it'd be cool to get this in this house. And it relies on passing an electric current through the pot, through the metal pot. So you have to have, what it is you have to have a magnetic type of material. So like stainless steel will work, cast iron. And if it's magnetic, if the magnet will stick to the pot, it'll work on an induction top. And the induction top will induce a current via magnetic field, induce a current through this metal. Metal gets really hot. And it gets really hot really fast. There's a lot of control with this type of cooktop. Again, not everyone needs to have this. It's not required. For many years, I just had a coil kind of range, electric range. A lot of people prefer gas. Gas has a lot of control too. Induction is pretty crazy though. It'll get up to temperature almost instantaneously, and you can cook water. And it seems like you can boil water in like 2 minutes or something. It's really, I've never seen anything like it. So it's kind of cool to play with, and it's kind of a fun thing to have in the kitchen. But anyway, you just got to kind of keep an eye on these settings. And this is supposed to go for, I think, basically just until it gets kind of soft to taste or whatever. But it's kind of translucent-ish, 2 to 3 minutes. I think it's 7 minutes. Sorry, it's probably been in there about 5 minutes by now, so it's getting pretty close. The other thing you want to do after that is stir in the flour, curry powder, cinnamon. Also salt and pepper goes in there around this time. So what I have is just a little container of all those things all measured out already. So I don't have to sit there and bore you guys measuring that out. And I'll put those in there in a second. Just kind of stir it around. Looks like it's getting pretty close to me. It gets that translucent kind of look to it. And let me just check over here real quick. Any questions? Yeah, if you guys have any questions you want to put in the chat or whatever, this is probably a good time. You can start putting those in there and I can answer them as I'm stirring the pot here and doing other things. So just feel free whenever. So I think I'm going to add, I'm going to go ahead and add the seasonings here. So let's get the flour and the curry powder in there. Going to put that in there. And by sort of cooking a little bit the flour, it'll kind of get the flour taste out of the flour. Kind of learned that by experience and also by watching some cooking shows here and there. So we want to get that kind of toasted, as it were. It's pretty fragrant. You can smell a lot of different smells in there. You can smell some of the cinnamon and curry for sure. Kind of a nice warm smell to it. That's the only disadvantage of doing WebEx. You guys can't smell or taste these things. So, but take my word for it. It smells really good. So, so that just needs to go for another, let's see, 2 to 3 minutes or so. And then we will put in the chicken broth. So chicken broth, I've already measured out. So this is 4 cups of This is low sodium chicken broth, so just, chicken broth. You can get those in these little containers, like 1 cup serving of chicken broth. Seems like I always have some on hand for various recipes that I will do, in the pantry somewhere. So we go through it, and it keeps pretty well, I would say. So let's see here, kind of eyeballing this thing. Alrighty, so I think that has been about 2 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead, pour in the chicken broth, and that's going to help. It's pouring all over the place. That's going to help kind of absorb some of the bits that get stuck to the bottom of the pot there. And I'm going to go ahead and increase the temperature because I can tell that it's going to be a while before that gets up to any kind of a simmer here and get that low boil going. So as I'm scraping around, I can feel some of the bits from the saute down there. So you can kind of scrape that off, and it brings that flavor into the soup. And this pot might be slightly too big, but it's better to have something slightly too big than way too small, and then you got the stuff boiling over everywhere. So, but when I finally start adding all the rest of the vegetables and components, you'll see it'll start filling up the pot. Just kind of wipe up this mess here a little bit of broth spilling up. One of the things I'll pass along too, so this cooking video, most of the other videos I've done, and all the videos going forward are going to be saved. So you can eventually you'll be able to get a web link. I don't have that ready to go right now, but there will be a web link where you can go and look at these videos going forward here. So that'll be kind of nice, I think. As we go into 2021, you'll be able to kind of go back and look at some of the videos from this year. So that'll be a nice thing to add. I think it's already set up, but I just don't have, for some reason, when I tried to access it, it wasn't working. So I got to work out the details with IT department and make sure that it's accessible before I can send out a link to everybody. Anyone got any questions there? Anything from the talk? Anything about all the cooking? Anything about nutrition? Feel free to chime in at any time. I just got the burner on high here, trying to bring it up to a boil. So once this comes to a boil, pretty much you just put everything else in there. So this calls for some spinach. I've got spinach up here. It's been chopped. This was just a little bag of spinach, actually. It was kind of pre-washed. So as you can see, it's boiling now, just like that, pretty quick. So I'll turn it down a little bit because I don't want it to go crazy here. Just want kind of a very light boil here going on. And I'll go ahead and add the potatoes that we just chopped up. There. Normally I would just probably put the cutting board right into the pot there and kind of angle it in, but I got the camera sitting there and I don't want to knock things over, so I'm just going to scoop them up by hand here, put it into this soup. It really does smell great. Should be a nice meal here for the next few days here for me. So I want to bring that to a boil again. I'm going to go ahead and add the chicken. I think I had the turkey. Sorry, not chicken. So we got the potatoes. This is the turkeys. This is about let's see now, this is more than that. This is how much turkey? Like 4 cups of turkey, I think. 2 cups of turkey. It says 3 cups chopped turkey. I think it ends up being, this is about a pound of turkey or a little bit over a pound, but the volume of this ends up being roughly 3 cups. and this has been pre-cooked. This is a product I found at Kroger. They, in the deli section, they have some pre-cooked, pretty high quality turkey that's has no additives in it. It's just no sodium added or anything, no smoking. It's just the turkey itself. So it's kind of a natural product one. But normally at Thanksgiving, of course, you would have had probably a turkey that you would have made yourself, and this would be some leftover turkey. So let me see here. So carrots, spinach, potatoes. So we got the spinach here, so I'll go ahead and put that in. Add some color to it there. And we got the carrots. Let's use the chopped carrots. And again, the carrots and the celery both came from the same little Kroger snack cup kind of thing. It had carrots and celery together, so that's very nice. All righty, so this is pretty much the ball game here, I think. So the goal is now to bring it up to a simmer again. Put the lid on this guy. In about 30 minutes, this will be ready to eat. Potatoes should be soft. So I'm going to go ahead and cover that. Let's see if we can get it up a little bit higher maybe. You always got to watch this stove because it will just, if you walk away, this thing will go boil over pretty fast here. But kind of takes a kickstart to get it going. And we just got to back it off once it starts boiling. I can already feel it's trying to start boiling now. So you can see, in addition to being healthy, it's got a lot of colors. I don't know how well that comes across on the screen, but you've got oranges, you've got reds, you've got green, you've got the turkey, of course. And that's a nice thing too, and that's kind of by design with a good recipe is you want to have different textures, different colors, and that makes it a lot more appealing to eat. Things that are just all gray or all one color, usually not very appealing to people. So in a good recipe, you try to have different things represented. To make this, like I said earlier, a little bit more balanced, probably have some whole grain bread or maybe some low-fat cheese with it or yogurt. I might have an apple or orange or something as some fruit. But, it's a pretty good, healthy meal all by itself, I think, as a standalone as well. It's just, it's missing the dairy component, I would say, more than anything. So I think it's starting to come to a boil here a little bit. I hear it anyway. Surface is starting to bubble a little bit. See, it's breaking a little bit there. See little tiny bubbles coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it there. I think we're good to go. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and set my timer and just give myself about 30 for that. And should be all set. So unfortunately, I don't have a finished soup for you guys to look at, but it will look pretty similar to that. So I don't think you're missing out on anything by sitting, waiting for 30 minutes. So I'm going to see if I can bend this around here and see. And if you guys have any questions, let's go ahead and do a little bit of Q&A. And I apologize for the awkwardness of this camera and everything, but hopefully you can see me. And if you have any questions, please fire away. I'm going to go ahead and move this over so I can see the computer a little better. All righty. Any questions? How do you guys think about be able to see the cooking pretty well? Did that come through okay? Anyone still there? You guys hearing me? Great dish, great colors. Okay, well, thank you. I'm glad that worked out okay. On the screen here, I can't tell how well this camera's picking things up. Camera's kind of a newer addition to the whole setup here. So we're kind of learning as we go. Looks like I got a nice little very slow boil here. I'm just going to turn it down just a little bit. So Any questions, any other feedback, any comments? You guys have any plans for the holidays? Filling my whole screen, hungry. You guys have any fun meals planned coming up? I know we're not quite into November here. We're really close, and some people plan these things out, many months ahead. We're probably just going to have a pretty simple little kind of staycation situation here, I think, for the holidays for this year, at least. We had done, we had planned some things, but obviously some things changed. This year is not a normal year. I think we're still going to have some of the kind of our traditional favorites that we like to have. Again, I try to make it healthy by either keeping the portion sizes down or just not including maybe every single possible item from my dreams of, indulgency. But I'll have one or two here and there. Like I always have a cornbread stuffing that I like to do. But I'll have really tiny squares. I'll usually kind of measure them out so I know how much is in there, and I'll have a little bit of that. I usually have some mashed potatoes, but I'm very sparing on, butter and stuff like that. But I will have some. I mean, they all have some flavor. They all have some of these components, but it's usually a little bit more limited and a little bit more healthy, as I can. But yeah, I think, and I always like vegetables. I always want to have some green beans, for instance. I love those with Thanksgiving. And usually there's a salad in the mix somewhere. Stuffing turkey with apples, that sounds great. Yeah, I haven't done like literal stuffing in the turkey, but I like to eat the stuffing separate, I guess, from the turkey. And, I guess you can do it both ways, but yeah, apples, I guess apples are, kind of in apple season, or we just passed apple season, I guess. There's definitely some good apples around this part of the country. There's a store, of course, now I can't think of the name of it, but I want to say it's near Fencastle. There's a lady that has an orchard and sells apples there. It's really good. I'm sure some of you are probably familiar with it. And, so yeah, that's pretty much, that's pretty much it for, I guess, today, for the year as well. Like I said, I'm planning on doing more of these next year, coming in January. I just don't know the extent to exactly how we're going to do it. One of the biggest things holding me back a little bit is participation. There's a lot of issue right now where we get like 10 or 12 people signing up. We get like 2 or 3 actually coming. I'm not sure if there are technical barriers. I know there's some technical barriers. I've heard from a couple people not getting the email link and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's all it is or there's more. But we did have a lot better participation in the past before COVID hit. We had the in-person classes, and with our first WebEx, we had about 35 people. But it's really sharply declined, and so I have to kind of take that into consideration and see what we're going to do. I'm trying to work with marketing and see if we can, maybe get a little bit more word out to people about these classes. I'm trying to get some feedback as well. You guys should be getting a feedback form for today's talk, and you can give me some comments on there as well. And hopefully we'll be able to see that soon. And we'll do what we can to try to improve things, whether it's technical or whether it's content-based. Always looking for ideas, too, of different types of meals people are looking to see. And then we can kind of roll that into the planning for the next one. Whether it's meals, whether it's topics, for next year. Definitely give me some of your ideas for that, and we'll definitely take that in consideration for the 2021 classes. We may also roll this into... Carilion Clinic has what they call the community group, and they do a lot of free offerings, free classes and things, and I'm probably going to be kind of collaborating with them more next year, I think, and we'll be maybe using some of those resources too. So hopefully some good things will come here soon with that. And yeah, just reading a couple comments here. Cucumber and little cubes with dill sauce. So that sounds great too. I love just having cucumber just plain with a little bit of balsamic vinaigrette. That's been something I've been doing lately. Just chop up a cucumber and add some vinegar with it. Just kind of make pickles out of it. Very simple, very easy. And, I kind of like pickles, but the problem with pickles is they're usually really high in sodium. So if you can kind of make your own pickles that are lower in sodium, that's a great way to go. The cucumbers are really healthy, very low in calories and high in fiber. So it's a good snack to have for sure. Always seems very refreshing in the summer too. I feel like cucumbers are, but eat them any time of year for sure. Okay, well, with that, I think I'm going to bid you all farewell here for tonight and get ready to eat my soup. So hope you guys all enjoyed that. And again, just look for those files and the feedback form that should come in your email here. I think right after the class is done. I think it comes after 7:30 or so. And if you have some ideas and some thoughts for next year, just pass those along. And hopefully I'll see some of you guys again next year in some of our classes. So take care. Happy holidays. It's a little early, but happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that kind of all rolled into one ball here. So you guys take care, and thanks for joining me again tonight. And, hope you have a good one here. Thank you.